Good morning. Namaste. This is Dr. Uma Keduvital, Faculty of Agricultural and Veterinary Sciences, Jayoti Vidyapeeth Women's University, Jaipur. As you know, I'll be taking the course on metabolism and bioenergetics this semester for you. And in the previous sessions, we have looked into the concept of free energy, the first and second law of thermodynamics and all. So how is this energy stored and utilized in our body? So in this session, we will be looking into high energy phosphate compounds. They are the readily available source of energy in the body, and they are short-lived, but it is you're breaking these phosphate bonds in of these molecules that our body derives the energy to drive various other reactions that do not occur spontaneously in the body, in the cell. So we'll be looking into this high energy phosphate compound. So since this is a slightly dry subject, I'll be sharing a PPT with you, and you can look into that. So what are these high energy compounds? So they are the energy rich compounds, and this compounds in the biological system which yield free energy equal to that of ATP. So ATP has got a free energy, a change in free energy of minus 7.3 kilocalories per mole. That is, ATP will be releasing 7.3 kilocalories per mole when one phosphate bond of it is hydrolyzed. And compounds that yield energy less than 7.3 kilocal per mole are known as low energy compounds. And so most of the high energy containing compounds contain phosphate group except for acetyl CoA. So we will be coming to the class of the high energy compounds. So they are known as high energy phosphates. And this squiggle mark, this mark is used in order to denote that bond. Normally in a bond, we will be using a straight line, but when we are denoting the high energy bonds, then it will be actually denoted using a squiggle mark. So you know what free energy is. So I will be coming into the classification of high energy compounds. So pyrophosphates, they are the PPI, then the enol phosphates, acyl phosphates, thiol phosphates, and guanidophosphates or phosphagents. They are the 5 classification of high energy phosphate compounds. So the pyrophosphates, so if we have ATP, and then if ATP is being hydrolyzed, ATP gives ADP plus PI, or it gives AMP plus PPI. So that is a pyrophosphate, because there are 2 phosphates that have high energy bonds. So they are the uh, high energy compounds. So ATP, GTP, all of these fall under this category. Now there are the enol phosphates. So that will be like phosphoenol pyruvate. So this phosphate bond is also a high energy bond. So this is a pyruvate, and over here with the enol bond, there is a phosphate group attached, and this is a high energy compound, and that is uh, enol phosphates. Now for acyl phosphates, if the phosphate is linked to like carboxylic linked to a carboxylic acid group, then that is a acyl phosphate. So that will be bisphosphoglycerate, that is also capable of generating ATP by substrate level phosphorylation. And then there are the thiol phosphates that are actually there is no like high energy phosphate bond, but a thioester bond. So in acetyl CoA, the acetyl CoA links to the acetyl group through a sulfur, a thiol bond, and that is the thiol phosphate groups. And then the phosphagens or the guanidophosphates, they are very important in muscle metabolism. So it is attached, the phosphate is attached to a guanidine group, and one main example is phosphocreatinine. So please make sure that you know the 5 classes of high energy phosphate molecules: the thiol phosphates, the enol phosphates, the acyl phosphates, the phosphagens, and the pyrophosphates. Pyrophosphates are the most important one of all. ATP and GTP falls under this category. Then the enol phosphates, like the phosphoenol pyruvate, forms in this category. Then the acyl phosphates, like the bisglycerophosphate, and the thiol phosphates, like the acetyl CoA, and the guanidophosphates or the phosphagens, which are the in which the creatinine phosphate, the phosphocreatinine, falls. So they are the major categories of high energy phosphates. Now, why does the cell require these high energy phosphate? Because this hydrolysis of this high energy phosphates actually gives a lot of energy, and the one of the major thing is that they can be coupled to reactions. Thereby, the hydrolysis takes place, and that energy can directly be transferred to another reaction system. Thereby, that energy can be utilized for many purposes. Like we will be seeing the hydrolysis of ATP happening in glycolysis, in Krebs, and such reactions that will be taking place. Like in the first half of glycolysis, energy is not generated, energy is used. So for the initial lysis of glucose, there will be a lot of energy that will be used. Like glucose, the first step is glucose to glucose 6-phosphate. There, the phosphate group and the energy for that reaction is given by ATP. So these are all reactions. Then there are these class of proteins called the G proteins. So they are GTP coupled, and only the lysis of that GTP will lead to the activation of those proteins, and then only those coupled receptors can be activated, and they are very important in signal transduction, like for the extracellular receptor kinase signaling, the MAPK pathway. That MAPK will be mitogen activated phosphate this kinase pathways. So in all of these pathways, they are all G protein coupled receptors, and the G protein receptors, they will be activated only upon the binding of the signal when the GTP is hydrolyzed, and that will lead to some amount of G protein signaling and the CAMP signaling that will lead to pathways. Then these pyrophosphates are the readily available sources of energy. But then why aren't they used as the long-term storage? So like they have a very low shelf life. They are highly like reactive molecules, because they are molecules that can generate energy in a spontaneous fashion, but the activation energy is higher. So it requires some energy in order, to be linked to some enzyme in order to be utilized as such. But however, if excuse me, Yeah. So we were talking about why ATP is used only in short term and not in long term. So ATP requires enzymatic activation and all that. But uh, then one of the major reasons why ATP, GTP are not used as the storage molecule for energy is in this that uh, it will lead to a huge osmotic pressure in the cell because you have so much of glucose to store, or you have consumed like uh, so much of food, and you need to store it all in the form of energy. Then what is going to happen? It what if one ATP molecule, one bond can store about 7.3 kilocalories. 1 mole of ATP can store about 7.3 kilocalories, and you have eaten excess of, like, say, 500 or 1000 kilocalories that the body needs to store. Then what's going to happen? So when this is happening, like for this you have 7.3 kilocalories per mole of ATP, and 1 mole is Avogadro number, that is like 6.3 into 10 to the power 23, 6.023 into 10 to the power 23 molecules will be present per mole. And then when you are like, then when you want to store like around, let's for simplicity's sake assume that 1 mole of ATP gives 7 kilocalories of energy, and you have had extra 700 kilocalories of energy. You have eaten that much and you need to store that. Then what will be happening? So you are providing this extra 700 kilocalories of energy that will be per bond, per ATP. It will be like you need about 100 moles of ATP to be stored, and that will be like 100 moles of ATP will be like 6.6 into 10 to the power 25 molecules that will need to be stored in the cell. So even when you have like say 3 billion cells in our body, or 3 or 4 billion cells are there, so even that the billions of cells are going to be only in the range of 10 to the power 8. And then you are having like even if you are like dividing it per cell, and say you have 6 billion cells in the body, so even subtracting this 8 from 25, you have to store around or even subtract 10, then also you have to store around 10 to the power 15 molecules per cell. And that is going to be like such a huge osmotic pressure on the body. Now if you are taking it as glucose itself, one thing, the energy is stored in it, and it can be further future in future processed as and when required. And now you have like one huge molecule of glycogen that has been prepared from these glucose molecules. Then what is going to happen? One glycogen molecule has got around 120,000 glucose moieties in it. So then it becomes a very compact and readily available source of glucose or fat. If you are storing it in the form of lipid, this lipid is not present inside the body. There are inside the cells, there are certain fat globules that are present inside the cells, but in the adipose tissue and all, lipid is actually stored as an extracellular material as well. So there will be the matrix also that will be having this lipid, or adipocytes are actually in a way uh, designed to be holding as much lipid molecule, and this smaller volumes of lipids can actually hold so much more energy than having to hold this 10 to the power 15 molecules per cell or something like that. It can hold much lesser volumes, and it doesn't require So like it doesn't increase the osmotic pressure of the cell by a huge number. So these are all factors due to which ATP, GTP, and these high energy phosphate molecules are used as short-term storage for energy, and for long-term storage, glucose, this glycogen and lipids are the storage molecules. So this another one is the phosphogens that I was talking about, the creatinine phosphate that is used as the source of energy in muscle cells. So this creatinine level is an important biomarker as well, because high levels of creatinine can actually indicate a lot of diseases. So creatinine is a very important metabolite, and but if its levels are going higher, then that could also denote metabolic irregularities. So that will be it for the high energy phosphate compounds. In the next session, we will be going into the basic metabolism, the energy deriving catabolic pathways of the body, glycolysis and Krebs glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and pentose phosphate pathway. So that'll be it for now. Thank you. Have a good day.